So today I'm here with Maria. She's the head of innovation and an executive creative director at Accenture Song North America. Maria, can you please explain? You have kind of a double role here. Can you please explain what that involves?
Yes, the double role is something that I've had probably for the last, I guess, 6 years of my career. I've always had a title which has innovation in it and creativity. And I think that is because I'm a creative first and foremost, but innovation to me is exciting and has always been the thing that I guess maybe makes me a little bit different to your average creative. So I describe myself as a non-traditional creative. I am inclined to not always look for digital or tech-orientated ideas, but I am inclined to look for ways to solve problems. I see our job as creative problem solvers, not necessarily people who make TV ads or people who make banner ads, but I do think the most exciting thing about what I do is that we get a brief and we can solve that problem in any way that we want to.
And as head of innovation, it's like you mentioned it a little bit, but is it more like on a creative side, or is it processes, or is it technology? How do you approach this role?
It is very much on the creative side. So everything for me, comes back to ideas. The creative idea is at the heart of everything I do. That's the thing that excites me the most. The innovation side of things is really interesting. And being at Accenture Song was a deliberate decision, actually. I could see AI evolving quite quickly, and I could see the opportunities as a creative person to be at the forefront of that. Accenture Song has just invested $3 billion into AI. So I've deliberately put myself on the front lines as the conversations are happening around me. I'm part of those conversations, trying to navigate how, as creative people, we build a relationship with AI and with emerging technologies so that we don't lose anything in the process. Creativity is a very, in my opinion, human thing. It's sometimes a little bit otherworldly. It's sometimes intangible. It's hard to put a finger on where ideas come from. So technology doesn't work like that. Technology, if you think about AI, is all based on machine learning. So it's fed information and it's fed ideas that already exist, whereas humans specialize in ideas that are original. And creativity, really, the definition of creativity is original thought. So I love this friction that we kind of see, and it plays out around me every day. Devereux's vision for Accenture Song is to build the world's largest creative technology company. And so my title has both of those things in it, innovation being the technology part and executive creative director being the creative part.
Yeah, and in addition to being a head of innovation, you're also considered the 35th best executive creative director in the world by, is it the Drums list? Well, what's the secret to kind of balancing both of these roles on this level? Do you have any secret recipe?
I think always coming back to the idea and always striving to do the very best work possible is my philosophy. And I always focus on the work first and foremost. Of course, the people, that's very important to me as well. But the work is at the heart of everything we do. And when you do great work, everything else takes care of itself. You can hire great talent. Your talent that you do have are really happy. Your clients are really happy. Your reputation in the marketplace is generally better when you're doing great work. So I like to keep it that simple. And it probably comes from spending 11 plus years at BBDO. That's certainly where I had my foundation as a creative. And they have always had this philosophy, the work, the work, the work. And so I think that's just ingrained in me now. So everything comes back to the work, and the work takes care of everything else.
That's super interesting. And I would also like to go back to where it all started. Like, what brought you into this industry in the first place?
Interesting. Yeah, I have probably had an unconventional start in the industry. I trained as a designer, a graphic designer, but I was always really fascinated by ideas and didn't really have the patience to be a brand designer and get into the detail. I guess I like to think bigger and kind of have a bird's eye view, I guess, looking down on things. And so I started as a designer, and I started working at a company called Colenso BBDO, which has been the top agency in the Cannes Lions in the Pacific region for 2 decades. It's, prolific in terms of the work that they do, and they still do great work. I started there and I was surrounded by incredibly smart, creative people. So I sort of learned through osmosis, and I was lacking confidence, which is something I still struggle with even today. And so I didn't really want to try and be a creative. I just thought I'd stay being a designer. But what I did do is I stole briefs off the creatives' desks and I would do them at night. And then I would compare what I had done and what I'd come up with what they came up with. And, often I didn't show anybody my ideas, but it was my way of learning. And then it got to a point where the ideas I thought were good enough to share. And so I would share them with everybody, and some of them ended up being made. One of them won a bronze lion when I was still a designer. So at that point I thought, well, maybe I can give this a go. And so, I've always been a creative with, I guess, that design background that gives me an appreciation for that craft and the importance of design and art direction in terms of storytelling and being able to communicate an idea. But non-traditional probably in the sense that I like to solve problems creatively versus answer a media plan.
Yeah, I think that's interesting what you said about like confidence, and kind of to succeed, you also like have to come up maybe with bold ideas sometimes. I think it can go both ways maybe, because like if you're too confident, you can also be a little bit lazy and believe too much in what you do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the other way, if you're like always working, always improving, like always see room for improvement, I think that's also essential in innovation.
Yes, that's right. And I think I see a theme really in a lot of the creative people I admire is that they think they're a fraud. They're constantly waiting for someone to find them out. That they don't necessarily know if they're any good, but of course we all know they're really good. So that can drive people, I think, creative people, to keep trying and to keep pushing for great work. It's just probably from a mental health perspective, making sure we balance that out and don't get obsessive about it all. But yes, in the innovation space, I think you have to persevere, because as this technology is evolving so quickly, we're struggling as creative people to wrap our heads around it. So you have to be patient enough to sit with it, to learn about it, to try it, and then accept that it might change. A week or two later, there might be something, an update or a change to the technology that means you might use it slightly differently. Or you could work for a year on a project building something that suddenly becomes redundant because a new piece of technology replaces it.
That's something in a lot of the conversations I have with people who work in agencies, especially, that resilience is important to.
Yes.
Because you get so many no's, or like so many ideas that get turned down, or like, how do you approach this?
It's so true. Like, someone said it to me in the very early days, probably when I was a designer, and maybe that freaked me out even more. They said it's 90% rejection. And I think that's statistically pretty accurate. The ideas aren't mine. I think that's how I approach it. Like, it almost feels sometimes like I pull them out of the air. They kind of come from nowhere sometimes. Obviously, there's a ton of work that you do to get to the point where an idea is plucked out of the air. It doesn't sort of happen randomly. For me, I fill my brain with as much information as possible. I sit on things, I come up with a ton of terrible ideas that I disregard. I go back to it, I talk to other people, collaborate. But I think the resilience and the determination is what helps you succeed, because it's when you keep pushing that you get incredible work, and you have to accept sometimes that you're not there.
And I would also like to talk about like your skills from early on. Like, what kind of skills did you develop to make you stand out? Did you have like copywriting or directing, or any directions you selected?
Yeah, I think my design background has been really handy. So I can sit down and quite competently design something or art direct something to a level which I'm really happy with. And I still enjoy doing that. I can get quite lost in that, actually. But the other skill or superpower I think I have is that I've always been authentic. I believe that if I turn up as myself and I bring who I am to the role and to the work, then that's going to make the work better and that's going to be the best result. And sometimes, sometimes that is scary because you're putting it all out there. Sometimes people don't like you. Sometimes people don't know how to take it. But being authentic, being yourself is, I think, all any of us should do as creative people, because that's where you get the best work.
It's also, like you mentioned, the ideas could come out from like nowhere or like anything.
Right.
And where do you think it kind of separates itself from art, like design and art? It kind of have similar traits, but what's the difference there, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like the business of creativity is slightly different to the art world in the sense that it probably has more rules. I think you're working on a smaller canvas potentially, and you're trying to tick more boxes. You might have a little less freedom, but I think that can be very interesting because there may be less solutions to the problem, and it really is problem solving. It's creativity combined with problem solving, and it's probably the thing I like most about my job. If I could do anything and the ideas could come from anywhere and it didn't need to solve an immediate need of any kind or answer a brief, that's not as exciting to me as having a puzzle to solve and trying to find the very best creative solution to it.
Yeah. It's kind of the intellectual stimulation of it, like the process.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, we talked a little bit about it, but what inspires you today? Like, what makes you keep on working in this industry?
I get excited by ideas. I love what I do. I love the process of coming up with ideas. I absolutely love the collaboration, working with other creative people. If I had to do this job on my own and I didn't have anyone to collaborate with, I would be miserable. So one of the best bits is having a team of people around me, smart, creative people, figuring out things together. There's a camaraderie, I think, involved when you're all like in a room, even if it's a virtual room, which it often is these days, and you're getting excited about making something. The process of making something amazing, I'm sure you know that feeling yourself, is just such a thrill. It's like a drug. I don't think I will ever lose the desire to keep making things. I mean, even outside of work, I'm constantly making things, and I'm partnering and collaborating with people outside of work in my own life. My husband's a musician, so I'm often collaborating with him. I am not musically talented in any way, but it's a collaboration. He needs to bounce ideas off. So it feels like creativity kind of fuels my life in every aspect. And the collaboration is probably my favorite part.
So talking about collaboration, what qualities do you look for when you are creating a team? What kind of personalities, qualities are you looking for?
Great question, because I think what I made the mistake of doing when I was coming up in the industry was trying to fit a mold of some kind. I looked around me and not many people looked like me. The industry was predominantly male in terms of creative departments, and it still is that way. And I desperately just tried to fit in. And so as a leader, I make sure that I encourage people to be themselves, whoever they are, because that's when you can bring your superpower. So I look for people that are going to bring something interesting, something unique, and going to bring themselves. Not interested in people that just want to pretend or fit in. I think authenticity is very important, and a collaborator without an ego. So the no ego and the collaboration tend to go hand in hand. If you're humble enough to accept that someone else might have a better idea than you, you're generally going to be a better collaborator.
Do you think like how the industry is today has changed the last 2 decades you've been in the industry, like more dominant? Was it more dominant by male before, or like has that changed for the better? What do you think?
I think it has changed a little bit for the better, but still not significantly. And let's hope that improves, in terms of the people in the industry. There's probably not enough female creatives coming through or staying around, especially once they've had kids. So, I think it's important for people like me to try and mentor up and coming female creatives and also have each other's back. Like I think we all need to support each other if there's not that many of us. Hopefully things will improve, and it's not just about gender diversity. I think there's all aspects of diversity that could probably improve. And then in terms of the work has changed, and it's been fantastic for me because I think we've gone from being focused on selling things to being more focused on solving problems creatively. So for a non-traditional thinker, that's perfect for me. So my canvas just got a whole lot bigger. Like I might get a brief, and 20 years ago, the answer to that brief had to be a film. I've got no interest in making a Super Bowl ad, but I am really interested in creating a new product to solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
One of the campaigns I worked on was pedigree selfie sticks, and to sell dog treats, we created a clip that attaches the dog treat to the top of your phone so that the dog looks at the camera every time you want to take a photo with your dog. And the strategy or the brand purpose for Pedigree is feed the good, because they believe that dogs feed the good in us, and we feed the good in them with Pedigree dog food. So the actual product that we developed created these beautiful moments with dogs and their owners.
Interesting. I was just thinking, like, do you have any advice for young females or young people starting out in the creative industry today?
I think being yourself is the best advice. Like, bring your superpower, have a craft and hone your craft. I do worry sometimes that that's getting lost a little bit, especially as technology starts to do more and more of that for us. Like, if you're passionate about writing, write a lot and be really good at writing. And if you're an incredible artist, be passionate about that and bring that, that skill to your art direction or to your design and the work that you do every day. So, or being a director, whatever your kind of superpower is in terms of your craft, that's really important to hold on to that and to hone that. Because the work that stands out to me when I'm judging award shows is still the work that has craft at the heart of it. Something that's just insanely well written. A great idea, but insanely well written. Or a great idea, but incredibly well executed. Whether that's using tech or whether that's design, it's still really important, and people seem to forget about it.
Yeah, I would love to. I know you've done a lot of different projects and campaigns and worked with different clients, and you have one or two that you put very high, like that you're proud of?
Yeah, the selfie sticks one I mentioned before is certainly something that I'm very, very proud of. The campaign I'm working on at the moment is really interesting, especially in the role that I'm in now. It's called First AI ID Kit, and it's a platform to help people learn how to detect deepfakes and respond to them. So as part of that, we've built a website and we've built some immersive experiences where you can actually learn about deepfakes and get deepfaked in the process. It only takes one image and 25 seconds of audio to actually create a full deepfake of you. So in the experiences that we've built, you can actually see how quickly that can happen to you. And it makes it a lot more real. You certainly realize you need to be aware of where your audio and visual likenesses are being shared.
What about these two projects do you think makes them special to you?
I think both of them feel groundbreaking. They feel fresh. They are pushing the boundaries of what's possible from a technology perspective. With the Pedigree selfie sticks example, we didn't just build the product, we actually created a filter for dogs' faces. That was before Snapchat did it. And so that was really hard because dogs all have completely different faces, not like humans. So the machine learning aspect of it was very complicated. We had to map for all the different breeds of dogs so that the app could detect the face and put all the filter, whether it's a hat or a nose, it all had to be in the right place. And then with this deepfake project, the First AI ID Kit, that is a first as well, like actually seeing real-time deepfake and pushing the absolute boundaries with our production partners of what's possible in terms of deepfake technology.
And to be able to be part of campaigns or like clients like this, how important is it being a part of a great company and a great team?
It's important. Yeah, like for me, that would be good advice that I could give anyone starting out is don't work for the company, work for the people. Find people that you connect with and that you can see believe in you and you'll be successful. That's much more important than the logo on the door of the company. And then in terms of the team, I think it's incredibly important. Also, as a leader, I see my role as to serve my team. I actually work for them. They don't work for me. And it's my job to make them as good as they can possibly be, to set them up for success, to give them the grounding that they need to do the best work of their lives. So having the right people around you is really important, and probably, to me, one of the most important things.
Also, you've been working on different continents. Like you come from New Zealand and now you work in LA in the US. Is it working, like, is there also working like professionally with campaigns and creative? Are there big differences, like culturally?
Yes, I've also worked in Toronto for 3 years, so I've had a little taste of North America, but there's a big difference between Canada and the US. So, I have really enjoyed moving into a bigger market. That's probably the biggest difference between working in Australia and New Zealand and working in the US. Everything is so much bigger. There's so many more people, and because of that, there are so many more opportunities. I have met incredible people, and there are incredible people in Australia and New Zealand, but there's even more incredible people here just because of the scale of the industry. So that's been really exciting. The role I'm in now is very much a global role. So I am able to work with different creatives in different parts of the business. At Accenture Song, we have Devereux 5 as well as our sisters and brothers, I guess. We kind of work alongside each other as two organizations, two creative companies, but very much trying to work together as much as possible to share the knowledge and the skill sets. So I have been working recently with Devereux 5 in Sydney on a project, obviously working with Devereux New York a little bit, working with Accenture Song in London. Some of the teams there jump in and help out on our work here in the US. So, and sometimes even teams in Scandinavia. So there's there's a lot of opportunity to find great people to collaborate with, and I think that's what I enjoy the most, is bringing together interesting teams of people. There is, you can hear our creative chairman Nick Law talk about it quite a lot, the mindful friction that you have between two different team members. Like, you can pull together really interesting people. A creative technologist and an art director might come up with something really interesting creatively. So I try and match up interesting creative people and just to get interesting results.
And also, like, how important do you think it is to be, if you're ambitious and want to like work with big clients or brands, and how important do you think it is to be in for example, the US market, or like in the big markets?
Not that important, probably. I mean, I have that perspective because in New Zealand, we always punched above our weight. And using Pedigree as an example, we were the global innovation hub for Pedigree at Colenso in New Zealand, and BBDO New York did a lot of the brand work. So if you're good enough, the work will come to you, even if it's global clients. I don't know if it matters so much where you're based anymore. As a younger person in the industry, there's potentially more opportunity to be exposed to bigger pieces of business and bigger problems or bigger challenges in a market like the US. But then there are benefits to being in smaller markets, whether that's in Scandinavia or whether that's down under in Australia and New Zealand, because things move fast, and that can be quite exhilarating. I must say, I do enjoy that pace. There's less budget, there's less money, so maybe there's less pressure on people to make things, to have things go into research. It can just be faster and more thrilling, I think. So there are benefits to big markets and benefits to small. I think probably doing both as a creative person and experiencing both is good.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about, since you're like working on innovation, something we can't avoid talking about is AI. And how do you think it's going to affect the industry?
Think about this a lot, maybe too much. In my spare time, of which I probably don't have enough, I'm working on a program called How to Stay Human, and I'm loving it. I'm very excited about it. It's probably a good thing to talk about in answer to your question, because that program is set up to try and explore how we maintain our creativity in the face of technology. I would never want us to lose the somewhat otherworldly, magical aspects of creativity because of technology or because of AI. You kind of see the conversation playing out a lot here in Hollywood. Friends of mine have been talking to me about their concerns because that, they don't want to be replaced by AI, and they don't want to feel like scripts can be written by AI, not by them, if they're screenwriters. So there is a nervousness from creative people. My answer to that is to celebrate our humanity and our creativity. So How to Stay Human is actually a training program where we learn how to be more human and how to be more creative because of it. So it's been a really interesting project, and I think it's something that we all need to be talking about and thinking about. Celebrating creativity and becoming more creative in the face of technology, not less, would be my dream.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really interesting. And do you think like every role can be replaced? Like one conversation I had a few days ago was a film director that created a film with AI, and he said like it turned out well, but the actors, it's very hard to see any emotion behind the AI eyes, for example. Yeah, I also mentioned that it can bring down the production cost so more people can afford to do a production, maybe. What do you think about, like, can it replace everything?
It's interesting that hearing you describe that the actors don't feel real. The connection to humanity and creativity is really important because the threat of AI in terms of replacing people is certainly on everybody's mind. But when it comes to creativity, commercial creativity, filmmaking, I think some of the AI productions that we're seeing or outputs don't connect with us on a human level. They don't make us feel anything. When I was coming up in the industry, one of the things I was taught was make people feel something, make them laugh, make them cry. That's how you connect with people. And that's true for movie making as well as making ads. So I think a lot of the AI outputs I'm seeing don't make me feel anything. And that's encouraging because I think that's the humanity that we bring to creativity, is we do feel things. And when I have a great idea, I get really excited about it. And I think that excitement and the power and the energy of that is what the person who eventually ends up looking at the idea in the real world feels as well. So it has to come back to instinctive human things like emotions, and AI just doesn't have that.
Yeah, and I still think it's a tool on the same way that you use Adobe for editing or other tools, but yeah, I definitely think it can bring down the production cost if you have like a human director with a human vision and can easier bring it to life maybe, but then you also lose a lot of the other roles.
Right. Yeah, it becomes, I mean, I think one of the things that we've been talking about at Accenture Song is prompt engineering, which I find to be a very strange word when you think about it in terms of creativity. So if the output from a production point of view is defined by the prompt, and if there's an entire job which is being a prompt engineer, even the word engineer is not anything to do with creativity. That is like a very functional thing. Engineering a response. Creativity, whether that's making a film or making an ad, is not something you engineer. It is something that is much more instinctive than that. And it's usually bringing together two quite unusual opposite things. It's not something that can be algorithmic. And so, we talk about AI hallucinating and that being a bad thing. I actually think that that's probably the closest to human creativity that we'll get, is when the AI doesn't work, because we're probably hallucinating all the time as humans when we come up with ideas.
And what benefits do you think we'll see from technology?
I think we'll see more time saved in the creative process, potentially things like researching a brand or a product. That time could be saved in that process, leaving you more time to be creative. Goodness, that's my cat.
It's a nice...
You have to leave her in the podcast.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Yeah, so I think it can save us time on the tasks that maybe we don't necessarily enjoy doing quite so much, to leave more time for being creative.
It's a fun guest. And
yes.
And other, like, I feel like a lot of conversation circles around AI, but what other things is it important to focus on as a head of innovation? Like, what other ways can we see innovation enter the agency world?
I think probably the most interesting thing for me at the moment is just looking at how creativity can evolve. So we obviously don't necessarily need to rely on technology to do that, but how do we maintain our ability to be original thinkers and to come up with campaigns or ideas that have never been done before and feel entirely fresh and not formulaic? You know, I constantly see things and am inspired by what people are doing and what people are making. So just being more focused on ideas, coming back to the work again. It's always, forget about the tools. We're all obsessed with AI. Perhaps it's just a giant distraction from making the best work of our lives and having a great idea. Like, a great idea is always going to win over everything, and cut through with people and be meaningful and change people's lives, be better for society. Like, the purpose aspect of creativity was certainly big, 2-3 years ago, and everyone sort of got very bored of it, but it's still important to me. Like the work that I do, I want to create positive change in the world. I want to help people. I want to inspire people, entertain people. That's one of the best parts of this job.
I think it's a great way we're going towards the end of the conversation. I think it's a very nice summary. Is there anything you would like to add before we end this conversation?
No, I think that's good.
Thank you, Maria. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for all your insights. And I really enjoyed this conversation.
It was nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you too. And thank you.
Bye-bye.